Hello, everyone. Welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. Today, we are here to deep dive into artificial intelligence. And my guest today is Henry Hayes. He's the CEO and co founder of DisruptREADY. And according to Henry, AI or artificial intelligence is more than ChatGPT. Well, I'm not sure about you, but I can tell you that artificial intelligence to me is completely foreign. I really know nothing about it. And I decided today when Henry came on that I would intentionally not have him share a lot with me so that you and I could learn and go through this process together. But while for some of us it's a complete mystery, for others, they have found it to be an innovative way to accelerate business growth and to improve their technology. So Henry today is going to kind of tell us, where did artificial intelligence originate? What could it mean for us as health and fitness and wellness professionals? So whether you know a little or a lot about it, I hope you'll grab a cup of coffee and join us. And I'm going to bring Henry Hayes in. How you doing, Henry?
Angie, I'm great, and it's awesome to be with you talking about this today. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, and I think you just shared also that you're not just the CEO and co-founder of DisruptREADY, you also teach artificial intelligence at a university. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's a funny story because it speaks to, I think, one of the important layers of talking about this, which is the speed. So, a long story short, I met the provost, a guy by the name of Dr. Roy Haggerty, for the Louisiana State University school system, on June 21st. And from that point until really early August, we met and decided that they wanted to get ahead of this. And so we built a curriculum and enrolled students at LSU's Honors College. And the setup is unique. It is students put in teams of four, 3 computer science students and 1 business student. And they're all looking to solve a real world challenge by using artificial intelligence. And so we can go into the details of how we're doing that, but I'm teaching that with him and then also with a computer science teacher. And what I love about what I just explained, Angie, is it's just the tip of the iceberg of what this can become, which is new ways of doing things and things that are not traditional. But when I think about Roy saying, let's do this, I tip my hat to him because action is our oxygen here. You have to get in the game. And so they've done that. So yeah, we're doing that this fall and it's a lot of fun so far.
I like that. Action is our oxygen. It's so true because, it's kind of like movement creates movement. The more you move, the more you want to move. But when you're inactive, you really just lose motivation. So you're right. I mean, any type of action is a step forward. So, Henry, I love that. I also love that when you're teaching at a university, you're getting the students to do a hands-on project in order to learn it instead of just being what happens a lot when we're learning information is we learn it from a scientific or, what it says in a textbook, but we don't get to practice it. So that's huge for today's upcoming students.
Well, I'll tell you one more, Angie said, and this is the business side of me made sure that we did it this way. You mentioned the textbook. There's really no textbook for this per se. And these challenges are real. So we recruited 2 from the private sector and then 2 from kind of the university ecosystem. But they're very real and they have very real world consequence, which means, as I tell the students, look, guys, there are stakes on the table. So, and this is life. This is real, as you could attest to. So I didn't want an environment where, nothing was at stake because that's not reality, I don't think. So there's a little bit of pressure and there should be, because again, speed is important in this pursuit, and we can talk about that. But it's another reason why this is going to be a fascinating semester.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love that the stakes are high because the students have a little more skin in the game and they're probably more incentivized to show up and do something. I just have to let you know, to all of you who are listening or watching, even my cat joined this conversation, which is very unusual. So Henry, you've captivated everyone at this point. It's hard to captivate the cat. So let's start with something that's easy for you, not so easy for me and many people. Please do tell me, what exactly is artificial intelligence?
Yes, it's a great question. And I'm glad you asked it because a lot of the things that are being called AI today are just good old-fashioned automation, which is fine. But there's a lot of misunderstanding around it. And so I think if we wanted to tell this to a fifth grader, we can just say artificial intelligence is a computer or a computer learning system, learning, reasoning, and making decisions based on information that typically humans do. And so at a very root level, that's what it is. If you want to dig a little deeper and let's go into the history, this is not new. In the mid 1940s, a British mathematician by the name, you may have seen him from Benedict Cumberbatch played him in The Imitation Game. Alan Turing, brilliant British mathematician, simply asked the question, can machines think? And in the 40s, you can imagine that was really out there. So for decades that followed, this idea stayed in academia, kind of esoteric white papers and things that the commercial landscape really didn't pay attention to. And then 2015 kind of arrived. A company called OpenAI raised a healthy amount of money and began working on more commercial application of this idea of artificial intelligence. And then in late November of 2022, OpenAI launches ChatGPT 3. And since then, we haven't seen a launch and then an adoption of the technology in the history of mankind that went that fast. And I'll give you a stat, Angie. So it took Netflix, which is still thought of as a relatively new technology, 3.5 years to get to 1 million users. It took ChatGPT 5 days to get to that same.
To get to 1 billion users?
No, 1 million.
1 million users in 5 days.
5 days. So that's fun to say, but what does it really mean? Well, it really means a couple things. Number one, it means that we all need to get our head around what this is. Because even if you disagree with it, you don't want to use it, I would say to ignore something like that it's an exposed position to be in. But number two, and I take the more optimistic view, to me, this is the great disruptor of our time, meaning it's not theoretical. You can learn just enough about it and put your hands in the dirt and try it. And that's when a little guy, a small company or a medium-sized company can be more efficient, more productive, and at the end of the day, generate more revenue and then begin to compete at a level that they simply haven't been able to in our business lifetimes. So all that said, we're almost getting bits of information and bits of, hey, what about, this has come to the fore every week with this technology. So it's a lot to keep up with, and that can be overwhelming, but I would say to your audience, now is the time to get into the game. And back to your original question, I think most people think they've tried ChatGPT or Claude. They have an account and they've used the copywriting function, and so they know AI. And I'd say that's kind of the kiddie table. It's great that you're doing that, but you need to go 2, 3, 4, and 5 layers deeper, because when you do, you can really see how this is going to change your business.
Well, I think you have most people at increases efficiency, productivity, and revenue. I would say that if you're talking to any business owner, small or big, you kind of capture them with that idea. So it's interesting because I told you, Henry, when I met you, that I was in Colorado recently and I was visiting my daughter and her partner, and he is an engineer. And I asked him, hey, do you ever use AI? And he said, yes, I do coding. And so I ask AI questions about coding, and that kind of gives me the groundwork, and then I can take it from there. But it does a lot of the backhand work for me and makes my life more simplistic. And to your point, increases my productivity. And if we increase productivity, we increase revenue by nature. Because efficiency and time is what every small business owner is needing, right? We need more time. And if we're going to have more time, we also would like to make more money. So I like that. Henry, do you want to expound on that? Because I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. I think so. And this is a great time. I wanted to introduce a phrase, Angie, that is quickly becoming not commonplace, but I say it in almost every one of these I do, which is never the same again. Now, what does that mean? That means when someone like you, Angie, or your listeners really understand what's going on here and where to use this, there are going to be a lot of instances of Once you introduce it, that is never the same again. An example might be a task that today a human does. So pick one of a million, right? And you say, wait a minute, can we automate that? And can we use artificial intelligence to go quicker and create a better output? And the answer is typically yes. And so that means you will never do that task the same way again. Think about the ripple effect of what that means to a business. And this is typically when someone says to me, oh, so is AI going to take everyone's jobs? No, I think artificial intelligence itself will not. People that know how to use it will, and that's fair. But I think the adept, proactive business owner would think, let me give Angie 20% of her time back and I can go make her more creative, because it'll be a long time before these AI beings will ever be as creative, if ever, than humans. And so ironically, Angie, those things that we're offloading off of someone's to do, typically they don't like to do those anyway. So this is all very additive to this idea of really how we look at work, period. And I could expound upon that, but it's a lot I just put on you, so I'll pause.
Well, Henry, first I'm going to reset for a minute. So my name is Angie Miller. This is Strong Mind, Strong Body, and we are talking about artificial intelligence and the fact that it's more than ChatGPT. And my fascinating guest is Henry Hayes. He is the CEO and co-founder of DisruptREADY. And Henry, you said two things that I want to tap into. One was never the same again. And I feel like when you said that, my mind, as it always does, goes a million places. And I thought, isn't that the way of life in general? Like in relationships, each momentum forward or each time that you get to know somebody better, the relationship is never the same again. Each time you learn more at your job, you're never the same worker again. It's life. It's constant forward motion if we're doing it right. And to your point, that's where efficiency and productivity comes in. But it's funny that you got into my brain because you went to my question, which was the number one concern that I hear about AI. And it's a creeping concern in my mind, but I didn't feel like I could say it justifiably because I don't know enough about it. But everyone is saying AI is going to steal our jobs. AI is going to steal our jobs. And when you first came on and you said AI is a computer learning system that is able to reason, and um, I say this respectfully, as a society, our ability to show reasoning and to think critically, sometimes we are used to a computer doing that for us. And so if we invent this technology that is so good at reasoning and critical thinking, and we as humans are less, maybe it's less necessary for us to do that because we have so much technology to do it for us. I can see where people have that concern that it's going to take our jobs.
Look, I think the questions are valid, but here's where I would push back. And this speaks to a deeper issue, which I think it's fascinating how humans, especially as they get a bit older, the frontal lobe of our brain tends to protect us, meaning I don't understand it, so I'm running. It's fight or flight. I see that a lot. So I don't necessarily hold it against that person because I think it's just good old-fashioned human wiring. But if you really want to go a level deeper, I would say you have to have a modicum of education on what the technology is, where it comes from, how it works, to then have kind of that visceral take or question. Because absent that, it's a little bit reminiscent to me of someone that complains about our political system and doesn't vote. It's like, well, can you have both? So I think the questions are fair. We still have a lot of ethical things to work out with respect to this technology. What's the government's role? All those things are fair. But to have a seat at that table has to start with your own level of education. Because if you don't have that, then I think, it's a less informed opinion for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Because again, I can't make a judgment about something I know nothing about. And I'm
Mhm.
always that person who says, don't complain about politics if you don't vote. So I'm big on, but get your feet dirty, get in the mud if you really want to know what's going on. And I agree. And even my the gentleman who does coding was saying, it's only going to be as smart as you are and the information that like you're not going to be able to go to AI and have it tell you something blindly unless you have a level of intellect about that information enough to know that what it's giving you is good or bad, or it will work in your favor. So you kind of told us, like, where did AI come from? I really like the how quickly it grew compared to like Netflix, and how in 5 days they got 1 million users, ChatGPT, which goes to show that there's a lot of excitement and a lot of interest, and people are seeing the value in it. But I was curious, what is LLM?
Yeah. So an LLM stands for large language model. That's what ChatGPT is. There are a bunch of these in that family. But Angie, a large language model is simply the way that these are constructed, meaning a very large, what's called a corpus of data, is assimilated. And then you put kind of a wall around that. And then you put training rules into the LLM. In other words, what's the business outcome you're going for? And then it trains on that. You tweak that, iterate, and then it retrains. And then there's a testing period, and then it's live. And so that's where you've seen some of the really unbelievable outputs from the LLM, which is ChatGPT. But this is a little like saying Google it, meaning search, or give me a Coke, meaning I want soda. So it's ChatGPT is kind of the poster child for an LLM, but there are a lot more out there, and there are a lot more behind them, Angie, that are on the way. For instance, it's only a matter of time before we have the niche of niche in these LLMs. For instance, your world, healthy mind, healthy body. What an amazing area to sit on, because you have such a good data stream historically. And that's really important for these LLMs. If the data isn't good, there's only a certain level that they can be expected to perform at. But if the data is good and it continues to get better, then people are going to be blown away by what these things can accomplish and how they can help.
Well, and don't worry, Henry, because I've already got you on speed dial. So I'm planning on you helping my business grow in that way. So thank you for explaining the LLM, because I think when people hear about AI and LLMs and they're like, what is all of this information? You tapped into something about ethical considerations and legal considerations. And I would love to go back to that, because you and I did say that one of the things I was going to ask you, and I don't know the answer, is what are some of the ethical concerns and what should we be aware of? Because I think that's part of being enlightened about this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's several. One is the bias that the models may have. And I think it's the other bigger concern is another phrase that's kind of quickly coming to the fore in this industry is called single source of truth, meaning do people inevitably trust any individual LLM, which is to say, oh, if I search for it on ChatGPT, it must be true. Well, at this point, that is not true, because it does have what are called hallucinations. And we can go deeper into what that means. But the issue then becomes things like deep fakes. And as we roll into another 2024 election cycle, the level to which voters rely on these LLMs for news or information or content, those are fair questions. I think we saw this in the crypto game, where human bad actors will come to the fore, and that will happen here. I think that's just human nature, and it's been in every technological advance we've ever seen. Meaning, hey, bad guys use the automobile to get away from bank robberies, so that's going to happen. Again, I think I'll go back to my statement a minute ago, Angie, which is he or she who is most educated about this is going to win long term, because as long as you assume that will happen, then I think you begin to develop guardrails, whether they're personal or around your business, as to how you see this. A great example of this right now, as we're doing this in early September in 2023, would be the blockchain. You don't hear a lot about the blockchain now because AI has kind of taken a lot of that oxygen out of the room. But the blockchain, in terms of its architecture and its structural integrity of the actual software, is sound. And so that is going to be around, and it's going to be around for a long, long time. But people have looked at what's happened in the crypto landscape and said, okay, that's a passing fad. That's a mistake to make. And I only got there because I took the time to dig in and understand, okay, what's really going on. Drop I don't care what crypto's priced at today. I don't care who's a millionaire. I have no interest in that. Because when you get to that level, you can then say, oh, I can see where this is going to be transformative. So we will have those moments with this technology. And so I think, again, it's incumbent upon that person to, like, where is your brain? Where's your head wrapped around this? I give a presentation, Angie, on disruption. And I talk about in 1908, Henry Ford rolled out the first Model T from his assembly line in Michigan. And then I show a picture 2 years later of the same car, which is deeply stuck in mud, clearly. And the inference is the infrastructure simply wasn't ready. And that was 2 years after, in 1910. So can you imagine you and I, Angie, looking at that car in 1910 thinking, yeah, that was a foolish purchase. Well, who was born out right? Clearly, the automobile, the infrastructure caught up, the roads caught up. But again, this is human nature to say, see, I knew it. I knew my instinct was right. I should run from this. And that's a mistake. And we teach that, look, you can do the deep dive and then say, you know what, we understand it and we're going to wait. Great. That's incredible, because then you've gotten yourself to an evolved understanding and you say, we're going to wait. I applaud that. But saying we're going to wait without the educational backing, I think that's a mistake.
So Henry, I hear you, and I have to sit with that for a minute, and I want to kind of expound on that, because really what I hear you say is it's fine to have the information and the knowledge and then to say, I'm not quite ready for this yet. But you're saying it's a whole next level thing to say, to judge, condemn, pass criticism, but not really know the inside information. And I think to that point, you're right. That happens a lot in politics. I want to reintroduce you. I'm Angie Miller. This is Strong Mind, Strong Body. And if you're just coming to us, I'm talking to Henry Hayes, and we're talking about artificial intelligence and how it's more than ChatGPT. And Henry is a wealth of knowledge. He's the CEO and co-founder of DisruptREADY. And what we're talking about, I asked Henry, what are some of the ethical considerations and some of the legal things we should be aware of? And Henry, I hear you say a number of things, but one of them is just be informed first and foremost. And I like also how you said the models could be biased and how, a single source of truth could get us all into trouble. My mind went to, people voting based on what they see on Facebook. I mean, it's kind of that whole, where are you getting your information from? And are you getting it from a wide variety of sources so that you know that you are not biased toward any one source of information? You said single source of truth. And then you said that AI can have hallucinations. And I can't let that one sit. I have to know what you're talking about there.
Okay, so a hallucination, remember, the way that these are either billions or trillions of bits of language data, which means text, PDF, Word documents, summarizations of video, just like we're doing right now. And so from time to time, these LLMs will have a hiccup or what's called a hallucination, meaning it won't get certain things right. Now, this is a great opportunity to go back to what I just said a minute ago. Every now and then, someone will be using it and they'll be looking for a gotcha moment to say, that's not right. And I knew it, and this is fraudulent technology, so I'm gonna go back to what I was doing. I think that's a mistake, because you step back unemotionally and say, okay, I understand why, if this is a baseball game, we're in the bottom of the first inning here. This will be smoothed out over time, and it'll continue to get better. And I'm going to be a part of that. Again, in any technology that's come to the market, think about the speed of the internet in the late 90s, early 2000s. Clearly wasn't anywhere near as fast as it is now. And you could have said, well, it's nowhere near as fast as I need it, so we're going to go backwards. And that would have been a mistake. And so I think for hallucinations, don't use it as a gotcha moment. Understand what's going on. These tokens are processing at such a speed that sometimes it does hallucinate, but those are getting smoothed out over time. and it's a part of the growth of the technology. So, but what a great left right turn moment for your viewers to say, check yourself on that, and where is your mind? What do you use that for?
Mhm. Yeah, well, and I think your whole message is be open to what could be. Be open to possibility, be open to how this could benefit you now, not how it could harm you. But you also said something earlier, and what I thought about was obstacles. And I think what you're really saying is we all have to be aware of what could get in the way just because that makes us more I think intellectually open to exploring. Meaning, like, even when I'm talking to my clients about where they want to be and what their goals are, one of the things I always ask them is, what are the obstacles that you think could get in your way? Because in order to work through goals, we have to know what are the perceived obstacles so that we can have a game plan for every perceived obstacle. So basically, that's kind of what I heard you say is it's okay to look for where it might not deliver up to your standards, only in the sense that you're inviting yourself to explore it more deeply and to be aware of that. Does that
So
sound right?
yeah, so you're right. You're thinking about it the right way, Angie. So I'll go one step further. There's two layers that kind of we teach at Disrupt Ready. The first is 100% automation. Automation is defined as um, there are no humans involved in that task, and there are a lot of examples of this that are benefit, to any job or company. The other more important and more interesting in our minds is the automation piece. So the question would be, how does AI automate and augment, excuse me, not automate, I just said that, augmentation. How does it augment Angie Miller's business, making her more productive? Another way we do this is if you think of a large funnel, Angie, we all have potential clients that come into our world. So think of the top of the funnel, and then
Mhm.
you go down funnel with activity and message and time, and then out of the bottom spits a client. Okay. A great way to think about AI as a small business owner is where could, as you push down funnel, what's the sweet spot for when Angie's at her best? And I'm guessing it's probably when you get in front of someone and you can really give them a sense of you have a passion for this. Here's the way you approach it, and here's a particular plan for you, the individual, right? So the thinking then becomes, how do we get Angie down funnel and with as much time that she can sit in that kind of sweet spot for herself? Because when you can do that, you're more productive, you're certainly more efficient, and you should drive more revenue. We take away those things up funnel, the messages, the reach outs, the maybe the intended messages around the business that just never land, right? And we get you down funnel because all the things up north of that can and really should be automated. That's our thesis.
Hmm.
So
Okay. So automate what you can, automate the more simplistic tasks that, to your point, and one of the things you said early on was these are the tasks that most people don't want to do anyway.
mhm.
So, Henry, I am so glad you came on. I want to leave everyone with a little bit of a taste of what's next. I'm going to have Henry come back on, and he is going to talk about how to make AI work for you. So, I wanted Henry to come on as like a two-part series where this is what AI is. This is kind of how it's disrupted our world in a good way, and or depending on how you view it, and that's all okay, depending on what your take is on it, because everyone is entitled to feel how they feel based on the information that they know. And so it's just inviting a conversation about AI and realizing that it is more than ChatGPT. And Henry will be coming back on, and he's going to let us all know, as fitness, health, and wellness professionals, we're going to deep dive into how actually can we make it work for us. So, Henry, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to all of our Strong Mind, Strong Body listeners. We will see you next time.